And hey, Boomer.
Hey, good morning, guys. Man, that was a scintillating performance yesterday, wasn't it?
Why in the name of everything that is holy do the Jets punt that ball inbounds? Why, Boomer?
It makes no sense to me, and that's one of the things that is really lost on a lot of people, that, with that amount of time left, don't kick the ball down the middle of the field. It reminded me of 2010, back when the Giants kicked the ball right down the middle of the field to Deshaun Jackson, and he took it back to the house for essentially a walk-off punt return as well. And, and the Giants never recovered from that. So this is going to be interesting to see what happens with the Jets. But I do have to say, there's another half to a game, and the other half of the game really is the defense. And both defenses were just absolutely startling yesterday. I mean, how good they were and how they kind of dominated the opposing offenses. I know Mac completed 23 of 27 passes, but he was sacked 6 times. There was holding penalties galore on both teams, and neither team could actually muster anything in the red zone. And I don't even think the Jets got there. So it was, like I said, half the team is pretty happy when they wake up this morning because they did their jobs. The other half is probably looking at themselves in the mirror like, come on, we gotta do something. And at least for the Patriots, they have a short turnaround. They got to play Thursday night. They'll be ready to go. They'll wash this game out, especially offensively. But their defense, man, was awesome. I mean, literally awesome. One of the best defensive performances I've seen in a long time.
Is that decision to punt on the special teams coach, or does the head coach have input into that? How does that work?
Well, the head coach tells them, obviously, everybody knows they're going to punt because of where they are in the field and with how much, obviously how many yards they have to go and what the score is. So, the interesting thing was Boyer is the special teams coach. I have no idea whether or not he and Rob Saleh spoke. I would guarantee that if it were Joe Judge that was running the special teams for Bill Belichick a few years ago, Belichick would have probably told him, we're punting, but tell the punter to punt it out of bounds. Do not put it down the middle of the field.
Boom, but when you look at that, I understand your theory on it, but still, you've been punting all game. You got to go down there, cover, and make a play. When you look at these two offenses, and I think Mac definitely looked better than Zach Wilson as far as you brought up the number of passes he was able to complete. How frustrating is it for defenses to play the way that they played, knowing that it just seems like the offenses can't get nothing going?
Well, I will say this. I think the most frustrated people on the field were probably the New York Jet wide receivers. I mean, there were times where they were open and the ball was sailing over their heads. And, the reaction of Zach Wilson after the game talking about, not apologizing to the defense. And, it was windy out there and all these different things is not going to go over well. Down here, I can tell you that. As a matter of fact, going through social media last night after the game, it's amazing the amount of anger and just disgust that is going to be thrown at his way. It's just the way it is. I mean, he's going to have lizard skin this week. It's going to be another long week, much like it was after they played New England the first time. I would tell you, Jermaine, the defensive players are really disappointed, disgusted. They laid it on the line. It was a really physical game. You could tell that the competitive nature of both teams was pretty high. And to have your quarterback and your offense generate 3 points, I mean, that's a tough thing to swallow when you have to go to work today, especially if this kid doesn't take ownership of just exactly what happened yesterday.
When it comes to the Patriots offense that you saw yesterday, and they had an extra couple of weeks, were you surprised there weren't any real wrinkles there with 2 weeks to get ready?
I wasn't at the game, so I couldn't tell you about the actual conditions of the game. I could see that it was about 15 to 20 mile an hour winds. I'm sure it was a really dry day. And, I've had games like this. And, Jermaine, I'm sure you've played in games like this where you feel like you don't hold your end up the bargain up. And I'm assuming that both coaching staffs were just trying to be as careful as they possibly could with the football, because if a couple of those interceptions actually are caught by the Patriot defenders, this game is probably going to be a blowout. They dropped the interceptions this time as opposed to catching them the last time they played. So I kind of think that both teams were playing very, very conservative football. And, for the Patriots, who actually were moving the ball, it was really inopportune penalties and drop passes and even a sack or two that Mac took as opposed to throwing the ball away. So I could just see that everybody was playing this thing tight to the vest on offense.
Well, Boomer, you might not know it, but Wiggy had, unfortunately, one of those kind of games on this show last week against Christian Fauria.
You didn't lose the catch-off, did you?
Boomer, I am now a defensive player.
Bad.
Oh, Jesus.
I thought it was like riding a bike, but I guess I can't
It
ride
was
a bike
awful.
no
It was
more.
really bad.
He didn't just lose it. He looked like the Jets. It was awful.
It
Boomer.
humbled him, though.
Yeah, I was
It
bad.
humbled
It
him.
did humble him. Yes, it did.
I have to say, Jermaine, the last couple pictures I've seen of you, I think of you as a defensive tackle these days.
Yeah, well, I've lost a little bit of weight since the last time you see me.
All right, but I mean, what happened? How many did you lose by?
I lost by maybe about 3 or 4. It wasn't very nice.
Jesus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it wasn't very good.
Man, that's like the Jet offense yesterday.
Yep.
You had no shot.
It was windy out there.
Oh, okay.
Boomer, back to Zach just quickly, because obviously we heard the remarks after the game, but then there were reports that in the locker room he was walking around like he wasn't the issue. And in New England, we've had to deal with people saying Mac Jones is a tennis brat. There's all these issues with his attitude.
Yeah.
Were there any reports of that about Zach Wilson before this game? And do you think he might have lost some of the locker room with it?
I personally was not happy with his performance the last time these two teams played. He did throw for over 300 yards. He had that going for him, but he had the 3 bad interceptions that ended up costing the team the game. I didn't like the attitude after that game. And then coming into this game, he was talking about how people outside the building don't know what's going on inside the building. And now this morning I wake up and I kind of warned him of his comments last week, and I think to myself, that he has no ideas, no self-awareness about how people are looking at this, how the fan base is looking at this, and possibly, and I would imagine how his teammates are privately looking at this, because his teammates are going to be bombarded by friends and family at just how bad he was yesterday. And I'll say the one thing: at least he didn't have the interceptions, at least he didn't have the fumbles that ended up costing more points for the Patriots, but. I think that this is a Gen Z personality that came from Utah that is stuck right in the middle of this madness down here that is called Jet fandom. And, losing 14 in a row to the Patriots, just looking at the guys around this radio station this morning, they are pissed.
Yeah.
And they are going to let him hear it, and it's going to be just an avalanche of criticism coming his way.
Can this Patriots team ride the defense to a playoff win?
Oh, well, we're going to see this weekend. I mean, this Thursday night, because Minnesota just got hammered on national television against the Cowboys. So their antennas are going to be up. They're not going to want to look like that, and they obviously do have a very good offense, even though it didn't show itself yesterday. But this Thursday night game is going to be really interesting to me as to whether the Patriots can do a little bit more offensively here. The defense is going to be fine. I mean, Matthew Judon is well on his way to winning Defensive Player of the Year right now. I mean, that's how good he is playing. So I think that the defense is going to be fine. It's the offense that's got to put up some points this week. If they're able to put up 24 points this week, I think they're able to win Thursday night in Minnesota.
Boomer, elsewhere in the league yesterday, I know you've said that Frank Reich is one of your guys. You guys are friends. Were you surprised by how hard Nick Sirianni rode for him yesterday after the game?
No, Courtney, I'm glad you asked that. No, I'm not at all. Those guys are really, really close. Everybody knows what happened to Frank. Everybody realized the shiv that was in his back. Nobody likes it. Nobody appreciates what happened, especially in the coaching fraternity, as you guys heard from Coach Cowher last week. But I think Nick Sirianni spoke for all of Frank's friends after the game when he was talking about, we won the game in Indy. We won the game in Indy. And I know that he just wanted to go off on Robert Irsay, Jimmy Irsay, I should say. And I know that he wanted to go off on that whole situation, but really held back. But by holding back, I think he led us into a little bit of truly what happened there in Indianapolis and how satisfied he was that he was able to win the game.
Boomer, you said if the Patriots offensively can get to 24 points, based on what you've seen yesterday, knowing that they had 2 weeks leading up to this game, do you have high expectations that they can do that regardless of who they're playing?
I would say that there are top-end defenses, and Jets have one of them. Mm-hmm. I wasn't surprised by the lack of output yesterday, although, again, I could trace it back to sacks and penalties at the inopportune times. And look, it was a bad day. It wasn't a great day to throw the ball, and I thought Mac actually handled the weather pretty well when he actually did throw it. So I think they're going to be fine. I think they're a good, solid football team. They're going to be led by their defense and special teams. Bill's always going to want to run the ball first. I do know that it's weird watching this offense without Josh McDaniels on the sidelines. There's no question that it's changed for whatever reason, whether it be play calling, whether it be play designing, whether it be, some of the things that are happening that are nuanced within the play calls themselves and the play design themselves. But I have to say, playing 17 games in a season and grinding through a season, this is probably one of those wins they'll look back on and they'll say, this is the impetus for us making the playoffs. Now I say that they are definitely a playoff team, and they definitely have a chance to do something special here this season because that defense is just too damn good.
Question of the week for Boomer is brought to you by McFarland Energy, the always reliable HVAC and home oil delivery pros at McFarlandEnergy.com. Is Mike Vrabel the best coach in the NFL?
He may be. I mean, my God, his team reflects his personality. They can win games without a quarterback like they did with Malik Willis. They can go on the road and win in New England, in Green Bay. And Ryan Tannehill could throw for over 300 yards in inclement weather. So, this is a big year for Ryan Tannehill as to whether or not, he is the answer at quarterback for them long term because it's all about winning championships. He can get them to the playoffs. The question is can he go toe-to-toe with some of the better quarterbacks in the league in a playoff game? And I got to tell you, Patrick Mahomes did it again last night against the Chargers. He's just an amazing, amazing player. So everybody's chasing him at that position. So Vrabel's a great coach. He may get Coach of the Year this year. But Ryan Tannehill is still going to be the key as to whether or not that team goes deep in the playoffs.
All right, Boomer, what's the plan for Thursday? You got the whole family, the grandkids, everybody coming over?
Everybody's coming over. Going to be a small get-together. But I will say this. I'm working on Thursday at 12:30 Eastern Time on CBS, or actually said noon Eastern Time on CBS. So we have the first game, and that would be Buffalo at Detroit. And, hopefully we get a good game, and I should be home by 5 o'clock getting ready to watch the Giants.
Okay. And one side that you must have on the table?
Oh, stuffing, without question.
Really?
All right.
Without question, yes.
Oh.
You a gravy on the stuffing guy?
I am a gravy on the stuffing guy, yes, 100%.
Like gravy on everything.
Pretty much, you're right. Mashed potatoes, gravy, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's going to be perfect.
I like the sweet potato juice on everything, but that's just me.
Yeah, it kind of you kind of reminded me of sweet potato juice kind of guy. That's all I can tell you.
Unfortunately,
Butterfingers.
I'm coming up there, Boomer.
Unfortunately, too much of it, and you can't catch footballs anymore.
That's all right.
That's the
I'm
problem.
going to Long Island and see Boomer.
All right.
Anytime you want to come down, Jermaine, you're always welcome.
All right, man.
All right, guys. Happy Thanksgiving, guys, and enjoy the Thursday night game.
All right,
Happy
we'll talk to you
Thanksgiving.
next week.
See you guys.
Same.